Where now for crypto prices? As the market feels the FUD from the Fed, we break down the metrics behind the red candles. Ripple making waves. XRP goes crazy again as RLUSD goes live. Why all the excitement? Is DeFi so back? A look at some of the projects driving one of crypto's best performing sectors. Living up to the hype. What is Hyperliquid and why has its coin been shooting the lights out? Pudgy Penguin pandemonium. PENGU hits the market at a monster valuation. Does this mark a resurgence for NFTs? And a look at last week's top performers, tweets of the week, and what to watch out for over the coming 7 days. This is the Coin Bureau News, live. Yes, this is indeed the Coin Bureau News Live, and festive greetings to everyone, every single one of you. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Guy. I am here at Coin Bureau HQ, and I'm joined as ever by Nick. Nick, you seem to be in an undisclosed location.
I am in an undisclosed location, exactly, which means that anyone could use their imagination to guess where I am. I could be on a boat in a nuclear bunker, on the North Pole, or indeed at BlackRock's boardroom after getting my marching orders from Larry Fink. You guys use your imagination. Let us know in the comments where you think I am. Okay, yes, do. And I see you've got some extremely high-tech analytics tools on hand there. Oh, yeah, exactly. Some whiteboard marker and some pens. So basically, my computer isn't working, so I couldn't pull up the charts. So today, guys, we're going to be doing TA with some classical charts like this. So Professor Nick is going to be putting out the pens and doing the TA like that. There we are, a nice analog stream to bring us into Christmas week. Fantastic, can't wait. Okay, well, it would be kind of fitting given what's happened in the market over the last, well, it's not even the last week or so, really. It's everything following Wednesday's Fed meeting. Bitcoin dumping below 100K. Market sentiment did a massive 180 from being absolutely euphoric when we hit that all-time high of around 108K. It's now slightly less than that. So, Nick, talk us through it. What's been going on? What are the metrics? What do we need to be looking out for? Okay, firstly, most importantly, I would like to confirm whether Michael Saylor is indeed watching again, because we know that he times his buys after the start of every single week of the Coin Bureau News Live. So last week, it's happened in the past 3-4 times, I think, in a row, which is kind of like, it can't be a coincidence nowadays anyway, guys. So what I'm going to confirm, last week, of course, at exactly the same time we started the stream, Saylor bought Bitcoin. The first time he was doing a buy above 100K. So the average price of 100,386 per Bitcoin. So that happened on Monday. So let's see. Let's hope he's watching in his bed there over there. And now, of course, last week we broke down last week Mariano's analysis with regards to fractals, potentially looking at fractal analysis from last week from 2020 market to see whether we were going to play it out. And until Tuesday, it was playing out. The fractals were playing out. We broke above, we rallied in on Monday, and then on Tuesday we broke to 108K, which was the target. We got to our all-time high again, another all-time high. Everyone was euphoric, and of course we can see there the all-time high, 108,439. And there was a lot of other bullish stuff happening last week as well. We had Bitcoin ETFs overtook gold in the US now within a year, or less than a year, because they launched in January, right? So that's crazy. Yeah. And we also had an EU politician saying that they also wanted the EU to consider an pro-Bitcoin speech in the European Parliament. They want them to have a Bitcoin strategic reserve as well, which I can imagine is so much of the antithesis of the European Parliament of Bitcoin. But, at least that's the first rumblings of resistance. Exactly. I watched that speech, and I wasn't able to get a sense of how it was going down in the room, so to speak. But I can't imagine the EU politicians were all over that idea. But good on her for trying. I should also point out that the EU isn't the only place calling for strategic reserves. Texas, they're making noises there. A Texas strategic Bitcoin reserve. So I think that's very on brand, I think, for Texas, for the Lone Star State, and Japan as well. And the glory of this one is that the politician proposing it goes by the name of Satoshi.
In this case,
I was like,
Satoshi Hamad.
I was like, oh, guy, did you not get that? Did you get this from The Onion? This must be The Onion. I sense that the guy who did this basically is a Bitcoin fan himself, and he's like been surfing that Satoshi name for a long time. It's like, I'm Satoshi. You know, my name is Satoshi. And he's like, okay, well, now I'm going to make the ultimate headline of it. Satoshi recommends a national Bitcoin reserve in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean,
but anyways,
lots of other countries and territories sort of, getting the idea to front run a possible US strategic reserve, if indeed that plays out, which is by no means guaranteed.
Nation state digital gold rush. That's what it is. Of course, so it was all bullish, looking all good. Everything by Tuesday, all-time highs, party celebrations. We're going to have that Santa rally is going to continue. We're going to get green candles for Christmas. And what happens on Wednesday? Jerome is the Grinch that stole our Santa rally. He came out and, well, it's interesting because we basically got our 25 basis point cut, which everyone was expecting, right? However, what's happened was projections to next year, right? So it's the dot plot, the Fed dot plot, which basically is an aggregation of all of the estimates of the Fed governors where they think they're going to see the Fed funds rate next year. And most are only projecting two 25 basis point cuts, which is, lower than the markets were expecting. So that's why, and it was a slightly hawkish, right, around that. And that's why markets started selling off aggressively. And it wasn't just crypto, of course, it was a macro theme as well. You can see, for instance, the 10-year. Now, this is an interesting chart because this is the 10-year interest rate on the US 10-year Treasury. And we'll put it up right now. As you can see, it rallied after the FOMC. So you have this paradox where the short-term rates, which are the Fed funds rates, were being cut. But the market is anticipating we're potentially going to have to see higher rates later on. So the 10-year rallied. And of course, that's bearish for risk assets. People are moving into bonds again. 10-year rallied, which means that equities also sold off. And Bitcoin is, of course, increasingly within this risk-on bucket. So that's why Bitcoin fell. We saw massive ETF outflows as well on the last 2 days of last week, Thursday and Friday. So it's flowing out as well. On chain, we'd also seen immense transfer from long-term holders to short-term holders. So long-term holders are taking profit. Obviously, this generally tends to happen when we get to these all-time high levels. And I assume they also use the pretense of the potentially hawkish Fed as another reason to take some profits, take some money off the table. We also saw a massive gap in the Coinbase premium. The Coinbase premium, guys, of course, is the difference between the price on Coinbase and offshore exchanges, generally viewed as mostly institutions buying spot on Coinbase. When there's a price difference, that means they're more bearish, i.e. there's more sell pressure, so the price is lower on Coinbase. There was a bit of a recovery on Friday with the relatively optimistic PCE numbers, that came out, still hot, but lower than was expected. And we could then see also the CBD metric, which is the cumulative volume delta on Coinbase, which started increasing, which is in terms of the buy orders and the buy volume compared to the sell. So that's why it started increasing. So last week was obviously a very volatile week.
Yeah. So, I mean, where are we looking at now? Because as far as I'm aware, over the next kind of from now until the end of the year, there aren't really any big macro events, certainly nothing scheduled. That doesn't mean we can rule out something untoward happening, but certainly nothing big macro in the calendar.
Exactly, nothing big macro in the calendar, which is good. It should be, clear skies. But that then again, from a perspective of, But from a perspective of technicals, I'll quickly run through a quick bit of analysis. Like obviously last week was the biggest weekly candle decline since Trump won. So that's not looking good. I'll quickly point to some analysis from Mariano, who's over on Coin Bureau Trading. I will of course refer you guys to Coin Bureau Trading, which is over here in the top corner, basically to go and see the full analysis for yourself. Wrong way, guy. But basically, this is an analysis of the weekly. Oh, sorry, I'm okay. Anyways, weekly chart is bearish here because we've had a stochastic. We broke below the white trend line in the 4-hour weekly RSI, not good. And of course, we also had the stochastic weekly bearish cross. You can see there it's been circled as well. So on the weekly time frame, it's not looking too good. It's also not looking too good. We've invalidated a lot of the supports on the 4-hour and daily as well, which you can go and see in some of Mariano's latest analysis. One other chart I want to show you guys as well, which is from his latest analysis, is this chart from the long short delta on trading light. Now, basically, this just measures the the long or short volumes, and it's basically from the order books. So it's kind of acts like an oscillator from a technical analysis perspective, and it shows us where the net longs are over the net shorts, right, green or red, in terms of the buyers, the bullish people who are buying and the net longs versus the shorts, and it basically lets us know into the areas where value is given for the longs and the shorts. So where the shorts for you value and where the longs for you value. And it's been trading in the breakouts, and as you can see, it's fallen. It's when it reaches the blue trend line on the top, right? That usually acts as it's every time we break that blue trend line, it's potentially an upside continuation, and most of the time it's either on the red when it comes down towards the lows, we potentially lead into a local bottom. So we've now fallen a lot. We've seen a lot of short volume, and that's why it's been falling a lot. It has potentially reversed, so we'll have to see how markets react when they open. But this potentially points to we could be anticipating a push up in the price as longs are positioning upwards, and that's their intention. So we do need to wait until the market's open to see. So there's a little glimmer of hope, but all the rest of the technicals are not looking too good for this week. But of course, if you guys want the full breakdown, again, I'll refer you to Mariano over on CoinBureau Trading. And of course, he's not the only trader there. We've got Dan, head of research, who does a lot of altcoin analysis, and Aaron as well, who does a combination of altcoin and Bitcoin analysis.
Yeah. So it's fascinating, isn't it? Because really, Jerome Powell, in this case, in this sense, is the Grinch who stole Christmas. Came out very hawkish on Wednesday. Obviously, it was the Fed talking about maybe only doing 2 cuts next year instead of the proposed 3. And as someone pointed out, that's just what they're sort of saying right now. That's not to say that 3 cuts couldn't happen. I mean, it kind of all depends on the data, really, doesn't it? So it's kind of fascinating that the market has sort of puked this much on kind of just a slightly sort of more hawkish tone from the Fed. But I guess this is what happens when you're dealing with volatile assets like Bitcoin and altcoins in particular.
Exactly, it's a very high beta on the actual market itself. So that's just what's going to happen as a high risk on asset.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's Bitcoin. It's been a difficult week for Bitcoin and for altcoins, but there is still lots of amazing stuff going on out there in the cryptoverse. And one thing we've got to talk about is what's been happening with Ripple recently, and of course with XRP. So XRP, as you will have noticed, has been on an absolute tear ever since Trump won the election. And there is, that's partly because of an improved regulatory outlook, the fact that Ripple was the sort of whipping boy of the SEC, and that could be about to change, the XRP army coming back in force. But it's also in large part down to developments happening at Ripple itself. And this is one of the big ones that they've been talking about for a while. This is the launch of RLUSD. So this is Ripple diving into the very crowded market that is stablecoins. RLUSD is, of course, a US dollar pegged stablecoin. It's designed to integrate into Ripple's ecosystem. It's built on the XRP ledger and supports cross-chain, cross-border payments, lending, DeFi applications, kind of a lot of the sort of stuff that you would expect to find on an L1. And this, I think, has a great deal of regulatory compliance as well. So as well as the kind of retail adoption, this seems to be kind of aimed very much at institutions wanting a regulatory compliant USD stablecoin. And it's one of the few stablecoins that's issued under a New York trust company charter, ensuring it meets those very stringent regulatory standards. So, I mean, this is interesting, isn't it? Because this is a departure from what Ripple has done in the past. What do you think their aim with launching this stablecoin is, Nick?
I think it's potentially, first of all, to act as long as, although they say it's not going to be replacing XRP as a settlement currency, I think it potentially is, because it's a stable value currency, right? So if banks want to basically transfer value that's stable, they want to use a stable coin, right? And so it's just naturally makes sense to want to issue a currency unit that is of stable value, which is what RLUSD is going to be. And also, I think that Ripple is well suited to be able, in terms of their partnerships, to be able to it naturally synergizes to have a stablecoin asset in that ecosystem with all the banks they're working with. And also, I suppose, if you're looking at it from the perspective of Ripple's renewed DeFi angle and renewed DeFi move, this will create a lot of value in the ecosystem, the XRP ledger ecosystem, because you need stablecoins in order to their lending, trading and all that kind of stuff for liquidity. And this will be why use USDC or USDT when you can use your own stablecoin, right? And obviously Ripple has also eyed the amount of profit Tether has been making. They see Circle potentially wants to go public, and they're like, well, I would like a piece of that pie as well, please. So I think it makes sense from a strategic angle for Ripple. And I think it potentially will add value to XRP in the sense that if you have an asset that has been pushed by Ripple to be utilized within the XRP ecosystem and the XRP ledger. And yeah, it's obviously also going to be issued on XRP Ledger itself, and XRP Ledger itself, more utility developed there for the token as well, XRP being the native asset there. And what is interesting in terms of like the launch last week, and I don't know if you know, this basically happened, is that there was bidding for a piece, or there was people bidding to basically get the first mints of this RLUSD for the novelty of it. And some people were paying up to 836 XRP, which is up to $2,000 at the time, for the first RLUSD token. And David Schwartz, the CTO, obviously said there is actually someone willing to pay $1,200 for a tiny fraction of one RLUSD. So the XRP army is definitely aping in here for the novelty of it, which is potentially, like, I can see the investment case for it, because if you think about how much of a cool thing would it be to say, I own a piece of the first Tether ever minted ever. That's, if you believe RLUSD is going to grow to the length, grow as much as Tether or Circle has.
That is true. That is true. I hadn't thought of it like that. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I guess it's the sort of thing that you see happen in a bull market. But yeah, it shows the XRP army is alive and well and fully on board with this. Really rich, RLUSD. I mean, I think they're launching they've got some exchange support. I mean, seem to be going on the likes of Uphold, Bullish, etc. Have you ever used Bullish?
I have not, and it's fascinating because I know they have absolute mountains of cash. They own CoinDesk. They're backed by Block One, which has, some say, has one of the biggest stacks of Bitcoin ever, compared to a lot of the others. But I've never used them. I don't know anyone who's used them, so I can't talk to it now. Well,
RLUSD holders are going to be using them, I guess, because I imagine there'll be some pairs for them to jump into on there. In terms of kind of early adoption metrics, it's looking it's looking kind of strong. The supply distribution says 68.2 million RLUSD total. 15.1 million on the XRP ledger, 53.1 million on Ethereum. And it seems to be getting a bit of use. Over 32,900 trust lines on the XRP ledger, almost 6,000 holders on XRPL, and 492 holders on Ethereum. And that's just in 24 hours. So it does seem like there is kind of a market for this.
It's picking up. And while we're on Ripple, I suppose it's also important to mention a few other things that happen, and XRP more generally in terms of bullish, factors. Last week we had the news that 2 former central bankers are joining Ripple. And one is from the ex-RBI, so the Bank of India, and then an ex-Fed governor. So potentially, these having such strategic partners at Ripple could potentially help them with their goal of becoming, one of the largest settlement currencies and settlement networks for banks. And then we've also got, interesting fact, although the Bitcoin dominance rallied last week, and I'm sure many people have talked about it, it was also driven by, Bitcoin dominance fell, and that was because of an XRP dominance rally. So the Bitcoin dominance fall was driven mostly by an XRP dominance rally. So you can thank the XRP army for a large part of why Bitcoin dominance fell. And Ripple is also playing the Trump game. So they have donated $5 million in XRP to Trump's inaugural fund. Hopefully he doesn't convert that into USD immediately. What is this XRP? Hopefully he holds it. He sees the value.
Is he going to be able to convert that via World Liberty Financial, I wonder? Well, we're going to talk about World Liberty Financial in a moment or so. But I should also say we recently covered Solargenic, which is an XRP ecosystem project. We covered that for our Coin Bureau Club members. Very interesting project. So do check out CBC if that's something that you're interested in. There'll be a link to that below. And yeah, it seems like kind of XRPL is kind of moving towards this, maybe being, leaning into the kind of layer one game, and their kind of native stablecoin is an important first step for that.
All the better for the XRP ecosystem and utility for the XRP token.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, before we move on and talk about DeFi, I have a reminder for all of you. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And ring the bell as well. There we are. Nick is spelling it out for you on his high-tech whiteboard there. Is that
my bell?
Oh, he's drawing a bell. Okay. I was wondering what
you
that
can
was.
See I didn't do well in my art class. You can see why I only lasted one. I didn't do well in the art classes.
Oh well, we're not going to lose you to an art career. That's a relief.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's been a strong month or so for the likes of XRP. Another sector that is doing really well, second only to meme coins in terms of top performing crypto sectors of late, and this is DeFi. DeFi is staging a comeback. So yeah, as you can see there, second best performing sector of the year. Now, it seems that the main reason we have to thank for this is Donald Trump, not just because his election as president, as we've said many, many times, is going to change the regulatory landscape in the United States, but because Donald Trump is also a degen DeFi founder. And this is World Liberty Financial, and it seems that a lot of the high-performing DeFi tokens, some of which we're going to talk about in just a moment, it looks like a lot of those have been driven by the news that World Liberty Financial has been buying up. Has been making buys of these particular tokens. Not, I should say, huge amounts. It's not World Liberty Financial's actual buys that are pumping these tokens, but more the news that they're buying them. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting, isn't it? This suggests that DeFi is going to have a great ride in 2025 and beyond.
100%. So obviously, DeFi has been rallying in general over the past month because of potential changes in regulatory landscape. Right, everyone was bullish on that. DeFi was one of the biggest whipping boys of the SEC, and now we've got a pro crypto SEC in Paul Atkins. And the strangest thing here is because you've got Paul Atkins, who's been appointed by Trump. He's a Trump appointee here at the SEC. Do you think he's going to go after a crypto project, a Link or an Aave or an ENA or whatever, an Athena, knowing that Trump himself, or in his orbit, or his family, has exposure to these assets, right? It's kind of like you want to please your boss to a certain degree. Yes, he can say, I'm nonpartisan and I'm here to enforce security laws and all that. But still, he realizes that if he irks him in any way, he's going to lose his job. So, it's bullish. That's just what it is, man. You can take, you can have issues with it, but that's the way it looks, right? So it seems like these projects and all that World Liberty Financial is accumulating, potentially bullish, and also that's why they start tracking the wallets of it, and why people are tracking World Liberty Financial's wallets, because it's an important factor in what kind of coins they're buying. Yeah,
and of course, I mean, it's talked about Donald Trump's sons tend to be more involved with this project than he is. I mean, I've heard Barron Trump is involved in some way. Is 2025 going to be the year when we have to pay attention to XRP dominance and have Barron Trump as a main character? I mean, that's going to make for an interesting year.
Exactly. You're going to have the Barron Trump wallet. He's got, Trump said he's got a lot of wallets, so many, like, wow, 3 wallets, right? So you're going to have to track all 3 of those wallets to make sure what the guy's buying. But yeah, it's crazy. And also, I assume that his other sons are also kind of like, they become very bullish, and they promoted this as well. They've got a big platform. They will shill it. They're not shameless about the shilling of crypto in general, right? Same thing, both of them, all 3 brothers. The other 2 in terms of, as well as Barron. So, well, Barron's not that public, but the other 2 are super public about it and will show it whenever. But there are, of course, it's Liberty. That is a big factor of it, at least the last week potentially. But like I said, some of these have been rallying more broadly for other factors. We've talked about them a few. We'll run through then quickly. Aave, on December 13th, Aave DAO approved World Liberty Financial's proposal to deploy its own instance on the Aave protocol. So that's been approved. So that's great. And then on December 17th, World Liberty Financial announced a collaboration with Athena Labs' yield-bearing stablecoin SUSDE into its Aave V3 instance. So that's obviously going to create a lot of liquidity there. And speaking of which, Ethena, that's also been doing very well recently, right? ENA.
Yeah. So they've just launched this UST. They've launched another stablecoin, USTB. This is backed by BlackRock's BUIDL. So this is, this is basically a tokenized treasury. But BlackRock's BUIDL fund is the one that's backing it. And USDE itself, the original Ethena stablecoin, has had a great year. I mean, it's now overtaken DAI to become the third largest stablecoin of all. I mean, we shouldn't be calling it a stablecoin, should we? It's technically a synthetic dollar. But I think for the sake of argument, we're going to call it.
If you want to be super correct, tokenized cash and carry trade.
Right. It's the third largest stablecoin / tokenized cash and carry trade. And of course, and I mean, Ethena, we hear Ethena has become famous for this sort of very high yield, and we hear decentralized stablecoin and high yield and instantly start to feel a little bit PTSD. There was a fair bit of FUD when the protocol launched. A lot of people sort of naturally and quite rightly sort of skeptical of this. But to be fair to Ethena, it has held up through some fairly high market volatility. I mean, I don't think it's been sort of stress tested, quite sort of bear market stress tested yet. But so far, so good, right?
Yeah, so far so good. And I think that the main thing here is the operational efficiency and excellency, because of the way that Ethena works, obviously, is managing all of their hedges on multiple exchanges, managing their collateral at these custodians, and also being able to mint and redeem very quickly when it comes, because that's what builds like a trust in a stable coin. So, and also there's the factor of the funding rates, which impact on the yield as well, and that can be volatile. So, yeah, it's been doing very well. And just a few other things before moving on to the next section. We've got Chainlink as well. It's been doing very well over the past 2 weeks. The Lig Marines have been loading up on leverage. As we can see here, the perp exposure has been much higher than that of many other altcoins, including TON and TRX. So the Lig Marines are going long, and that's probably driving a lot of the activity and price appreciation. There was, of course, a announcement of tokenized Coinbase with tokenized assets platform called Project Diamond, and that's utilizing Chainlink's CCIP, which is interesting because Chainlink is trying to move and diversify beyond just being a Oracle network and this whole cross-chain interoperability protocol, the CCIP. And we have a video on Chainlink comparing it to Pyth, as well as potentially we should do a Chainlink update at some point. Yeah. And those are both in the channel.
Okay, and then finally, the other DeFi token that's been doing well recently is Ondo. This is obviously the tokenized RWA real world assets protocol, and these guys, they're kind of looking to be this sort of bridge between traditional finance and blockchain. And it seems to be gaining a lot of traction. Obviously, World Liberty Financial comes into the picture there as well. And guess what, Nick? Surprise, surprise. Ondo Finance also contributed to Trump's inauguration fund, $1 million. How about that?
$1 million. How about that? Hey, I was wondering, I was saying it earlier, I wonder what came first, World Liberty Financial's investment into Ondo or Ondo's donation to Trump's inauguration. So it's kind of like, I rub your back, you scratch mine.
Yeah.
A deal among friends, switcheroo.
Yeah, crypto with friends in high places. Okay, so that was a look at the DeFi sector in general, but let's hone in on another DeFi project, which was kind of one of the big talking points of the last week or so. This is, of course, Hyperliquid. Now, there were two big airdrops last week. There were two big drops, and Hyperliquid, I think, could well turn out to have been the most valuable airdrop of all time. So we'll talk about the actual kind of mechanics of the airdrop in a moment. But Nick, can you just, for those watching who might have heard the term Hyperliquid but might not be familiar with it, what exactly is it? Why are people getting so excited about it?
Yeah, so Hyperliquid is a high-performance layer one that was built specifically for decentralized perpetuals trading. So it's analogous to the likes of DYDX when it migrated to its own chain. So it's its own L1. And why it's been very, very, very popular among traders for its main features and functionalities. Extremely highly performant. So there's low slippage compared to many of the other DEXs out there. You've got up to 30 tokens with 50 times leverage. Now, 50 times leverage on a decentralized exchange is important because for such high leverage, you have to have a very quick and efficient, liquidations to be able to, not have any sort of bad debts. So, of course, it's very highly performant. It's fast as hell. It's got up to 100, can execute up to 100,000 orders per second, thanks to its Hyper BFT. It's also got gasless transactions. So from a UX perspective, I mean, why would you go and use a SEX or any other sort of DEX if you can utilize gasless transactions? I mean, it's just no-brainer. And also the EVM compatibility and interoperability, so it makes it easier to integrate things later on if there are going to be things built within Hyperliquid. Of course, a lot of this features and functionality comes from the fact that it is quite centralized. They started building out centralized, which, is what it is, because, it's one of those things, the chicken and egg. You need to first get that speed and functionality that people want from a DEX, a highly performance perp DEX. You need to have some degree of centralization. But the Hyperliquid story itself is really crazy because it was started by only a few guys. They do have backgrounds in high frequency trading firms. They were market makers in crypto before, but they self-funded the project, coded it from scratch. I was listening to the founder in an interview recently, and he said he kind of taught himself to code in 2020 when building his market maker features and functionality, market maker algorithms. And it's really, it's like I say, no VC funding, self-funded. It's grown exponentially this year. It's got over 5 billion in total transaction volume. It's done over, I think it's 5 billion, and it's done over 3 billion in TVL. It's got its SEX level speeds with the DEX, and it is actually analogous to a NASDAQ on-chain, which if that sounds familiar, guys, that's because that's what Solana originally set out to be, a NASDAQ on-chain, which is what now Hyperliquid is.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, this is changing the game to a large degree, and I guess this kind of ties into that idea of a sort of DeFi resurgence coming. If DeFi can bring some of those features that you get with a centralized exchange, then that's going to be huge for the sector, and it's going to attract a lot more users to it. And what was even more surprising perhaps about this was that the airdrop, which I think, as I said earlier, could be the most valuable airdrop ever. Certainly, Blockworks were speculating on that. This seems to have been done in a pretty good way. Like it seems to have worked well. I haven't seen the timeline flooded with disgruntled holders, who got the hype airdrop complaining about their allocation. I mean, it was certainly the largest of 2024. 31% of tokens were distributed. That's equivalent to $1.8 billion. So things like it kind of puts things like Starknet and Arbitrum in the shade in that respect. 31% for the Genesis airdrop, almost 39% for community rewards, 23.8% for core contributors, which is locked for about 3 years. And crucially, I don't know if you already mentioned this, Nick, no allocations for VCs or exchanges. I mean, that's kind of crazy, right?
That is crazy. And this is potentially why it was such a community-driven airdrop, feeling of community with it. I think that they've done, in terms of like what all the other projects who've done airdrops, run airdrop campaigns this year, have just failed to do. And that's Hyperliquid focused first on product, first on protocol, and building a protocol that people want to use to trade with, right? And the points is ancillary to that, right? It's not important, right? The most important thing is to build a project on protocol where people will want to use it devoid of monetary incentives of some sort of, I'm going to pay you to do it, I'm going to give you free crypto. And as a result, people would happy to get the points because it doesn't matter, because I'm still I still like using this protocol. And yeah, of course, the fact that they didn't have any VCs that funded it mean they weren't getting pushed to go through a early on airdrop campaign. They weren't being forced to get an ROI for their VCs in terms of valuation upticks. So, and that's been a blessing for them. And people got a lot of the distribution, and it's done very well out of the gates.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been good. I think it's worth mentioning. I think, you know, we've got to balance it with a little bit of FUD. There has been some speculation that North Koreans, specifically the Lazarus Group, have been getting involved here. We've got this tweet from Tevano. Yeah, so and he points out there, you know, as you mentioned earlier, Nick, 4 validators. I mean, that is pretty centralized. I gather that number is due to increase in the not too distant future. But still, as you said, you know, the cost of this speed and this high performance comes at the expense of having just 4 validators. So there is a risk with this. And if we look at this one, can we bring the other one up from Look On Chain that's just below that? And yeah, I've seen people speculating. It's like, okay, the North Koreans are using this. Why exactly? What are they up to? They're not necessarily trading. Because if they are, they're not doing. They've lost almost $500,000. But speculation is like, well, what exactly is their end game here? So definitely something to watch out for. I'm kind of hoping that the Hyperliquid team are focused on this, because that's obviously.
You think the guy who traded that on Hyperliquid has been called to the firing line by Kim Jong-un?
Been recalled to Pyongyang.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so that is Hyperliquid. Very exciting project. I think we're going to be hearing a lot from that in 2025. Now, before we look at the
worth the hype.
Worth the hype, exactly. Before we look at the other big drop of last week, it is time, Nick. It is time for the Wall of Shame. Yeah, we have to put some countries to shame. So these, for those unfamiliar, these are the countries with the lowest amount of viewers of last week's live stream. Tanzania, I believe, a repeat offender, as is Mauritius. Not good. Africa represented twice there, Nick. Just saying.
I have to speak to them. I have to. Africa crypto adoption needs to step it up, guys. Come on.
It really does. It really does. The Cayman Islands, I mean, I imagine they're just all drinking champagne and enjoying the tax-free lifestyle over there. So I'm not all that surprised. Iraq.
All the British experts, man, just like,
Yeah.
Iraq, I mean, I'm surprised. The interesting thing about Iraq is that it means that in all the other weekly list of shames, other countries that had lower viewers than a country that was technically still kind of in a war zone. So, you know, I mean... what's up with that?
I mean, I'm just glad we had viewers from Iraq at all, I suppose. But it would be good to get some more. So that's last week's Wall of Shame. So make sure your country isn't on it next week, folks. Okay, let's move on. So the Hyperliquid drop, you know, this big performant DeFi project, this high performance L1. And the other big one was some cutesy penguins. This was the PENGU airdrop to holders of the Pudgy Penguins NFT collection, and many more, I should say. So this was a similarly massive airdrop. I mean, I imagine if you've been in crypto for more than a few minutes, you're probably familiar with the Pudgy Penguins. You'll probably have seen people using them as their PFPs. They're very popular. Launched on the 17th of December, a $2.3 billion market cap. And I mean, the token is basically designed to sort of drive engagement with the ecosystem. And sort of, I guess we'll see how that kind of plays out over the coming months. I understand the team is planning to expand utility through, the classic thing of partnerships, features tied to the broader. There's a metaverse, apparently. There's going to be a Pudgy Penguins metaverse. So we'll look out for that. But again, the airdrop seemed to go pretty well. I didn't seem to see a lot of negative sentiment around it. I mean, I think part of the reason for this was that almost everyone seemed to be eligible. Not only holders of Pudgy Penguins NFTs, of which there aren't that many, but little Pudgies, ROGs, soulbound tokens, but also some Phantom users were eligible, some MetaMask users were eligible. So I do encourage you guys, if you've been a crypto user for a while, it might be worth going to the Pudgy Penguins official X account and just checking whether you're eligible. So, but there were an awful lot of claims. In fact, fascinatingly, Solana did more transactions than all the other blockchains combined during this Pudgy
record, right?
Yeah,
also record. So yeah,
and didn't go down, didn't have an outage, which which I think
we're winning, guys.
Yeah, that would have really changed the vibe, I think. And of course, the value of the Pudgy token, it dropped fairly quickly. I don't think anyone was all that surprised. Obviously, a lot of selling of these tokens was going on. I mean, because some people got pretty big allocations. I think if you're a Pudgy, if you're an NFT holder, you've got a fairly big amount of tokens. So it's not all that surprising that that some people decided to cash in. Yeah, it's been good. It's been good for the sort of overall Pudgy Penguins brand, which is pretty strong, right?
Yeah, 100%. So Pudgy Penguins, if you guys don't know, I mean, it's probably one of the most resilient NFT collections. No, the most resilient NFT collection. Like, we can take a look at just one image here, and this is the floors of the top NFT collections: Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, and the Pudgy Penguins. And you can see that even throughout the bear market, it's managed to hold that floor, and it's been picking up recently a lot. And the Pudgy Penguins themselves, I think, is probably one of the most resilient NFT communities, strongest communities. I think that they managed to the ideals a lot of these NFT communities had in the beginning around building such a resilient, strong community is what they've been able to achieve. And part of this is a result of the grit and determination of the team behind it. And it's a big underdog story in terms of Luca Netz, who's the founder, how he bought this Pudgy Penguins collection, Pudgy Penguins, for like $2.5 million just before FTX collapsed. And the royalty fees on these things went to zero, and they had to build in a bear market. This resiliency and grit has basically helped them. They decided they're going to increase adoption through physical products. They launched these Pudgy Penguin toys. He managed to get it in Walmart. I mean, I don't know if anyone who works in retail will know how hard it is to get a product past the buyers at Walmart. And there has been a lot of community engagement. They're big in Asia as well. And obviously, they're very good at their social game, right? Because I think Luca's background is in social media marketing as well as drop shipping as well. So it's really one of these success stories in the NFT space, which is lacking a lot. And also to the point that they didn't raise any large amounts of money. They raised like, I think, 8 million about a few months ago, or like maybe earlier this year. Whereas comparison, like the likes of Yuga Labs, over 300 million raised. And I mean, okay, that needed, and every single sort of like release that they've done over the past year or two has just landed like a damp squib, and people wonder, is like, how is this possible? So Pudgy Penguins, really interesting NFT collection, and I think this goal of releasing this PENGU token was to include more people into the community, those who couldn't necessarily afford a Pudgy Penguin or any of the other penguins themselves, because the Pudgies now are trading for still about 70K or so in terms of floor prices for the cheapest. So yeah, credit to the Pudgy Penguins team. I really think it's they managed to build out of this now. Whether we think NFTs are having a resurgence now, I don't know. I think that what do you think, Guy?
I mean, I think it could mark a bit of a turning point. I mean, the NFT sector itself has just had such a terrible last couple of years. I think it's interesting, that the Pudgy Penguins have sort of crossed over IRL. You were talking about these plushy toys that they have in Walmart and stuff. I think that could be like a big maybe a big kind of pointer for future NFT collections. It's like, maybe it's not just about existing online and on chain, but you also need a kind of, a more IRL presence as well. I mean, I think NFT sales are certainly picking up across the board. But I guess, they were starting from such a low point that, you could argue that they maybe didn't have much further to go. I think total sales volume has reached just over $300 million, which is a 33% increase. And obviously the Pudgy Penguins have sort of driven that a bit. But I think it's maybe a little early to start calling for an NFT resurgence. But, I think there's I think it's definitely perhaps things are brighter for that sector. Yeah. Okay. There's also, I think, there's also some excitement for for NFTs in general. OpenSea seems to be preparing to launch a token as well. I don't think that, because Magic Eden launched a token not long ago, which I don't think was such a success. But yeah, I mean, certainly there's much more positive news around NFTs at the moment than there is negative, which will make a nice change for NFT fans everywhere.
Yeah, long underwater. Hopefully, some resurgence to that open sea.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, that is all the news items we had to talk about today. Now, before we look at last week's top gainers, most of which have already been mentioned, I just need to mention the fact that the Coin Bureau has a podcast once again. A lot of you have been saying recently that you'd like to be able to listen to our videos. Obviously, YouTube isn't the most optimal platform for that. So we are now uploading episodes of Coin Bureau videos to Spotify. You can also find them on Apple Podcasts, all the places you get your podcasts, basically. So if listening to Nick and I's dulcet tones is more of your thing, then that is where you can do it. And if you do go and listen, please help us out by leaving a review and sort of sharing it as well, because that's the way that helps the podcast grow and reach more people. So we'd greatly appreciate that.
Learn about crypto whilst you cooking, gymming, anything. We're studying.
Exactly.
There we go.
Exactly. Whilst you're crushing that workout, you can also listen to me ramble on about crypto. Or maybe a lot of people have said to me, quite a lot of people have come up to me in the past in real life and said, something along the lines of either I listen to your videos to help me sleep, or quite a few women have said, oh, my husband goes to sleep listening to your videos, which I never quite know how to react to that. I kind of feel it's a compliment, but anyway. So yeah, now it's easier.
Wow.
The things people say, the things you hear. Okay, last week's top gainers were, let's run through these quickly. PENGU. Now this feature, now I know what you're going to say. That is not the chart of a top performing altcoin over the last week. But folks, in case you hadn't noticed, most of the market was going in that direction. Yeah. And so CoinMarketCap, which is where we pull these from, pull the top gainers from, it is counting PENGU because basically it went from a market cap of 0 to a market cap of $2.3 billion. So that's why it's one of the top performers. I tell you what's interesting, Nick, actually, I was kind of looking through, not one mention of this Pudgy airdrop in the kind of mainstream media at all. I don't know if that's surprising or not. I mean, I suppose it's an NFT collection, but the fact that it has that it seems to have that life sort of slightly beyond crypto, like we mentioned with the toys and stuff in Walmart. So yeah, we're still early. Okay,
another still just talking about Hawk Tour, man. That's all I care about. That's all the mainstream's covering. They're not even covering Bitcoin. I'll bet you there's more stories about Hawk Tour than about Bitcoin breaking through another all-time high. But mainstream 166.
Stop. Okay. Fortunately, Hawk isn't in the top performers from last week. Another one was FTT. FTT, the defunct FTX exchange token. That was a top performer.
The literal dead cat bounce.
Very much a dead cat bounce, or in this case, a dead penguin bounce, because apparently I think FTT holders were bizarrely eligible for the PENGU airdrop. So I think a lot of people went and bought FTT in order to get their hands on some PENGU. I hope that worked out for them, because that's a pretty degenerate trade, if you ask me. Another top performer from last week is Move. This is the token of Movement Labs. This was sort of launched to a big fanfare a couple of weeks ago and has been kind of shooting the lights out ever since. And this is an L2 that uses the Move programming language, which is used by the likes of Sui and Aptos. So there's a lot of excitement around this. I should also point out that this is a project that we at Coin Bureau are invested in, just for full disclosure there. But a lot of excitement around that. I don't think there's been any particular reason why it's outperformed. I think there just seems to be a kind of new coins meta at the moment, don't you think?
General bullish, and I think obviously it's the Move meta and the fact that it's a different angle to the ones that the likes of Sui and Aptos have taken. But also it was the fact that they managed to, on TGE, launch on Coinbase, which is very, very difficult to do. And that's obviously creates liquidity, and there's more scope for people to invest in it. So it's done very well out of launch. Credit to the team.
Yeah. Okay, Hype was another top performer from last week. I mean, we've covered that. We know all about why Hyperliquid did so well. And the other top performer from last week was Mantle. Now I couldn't find any particular reason why Mantle had pumped. I don't know if you found anything, Nick. I mean, Mantle again, kind of very much DeFi focused. So
it was an
DeFi.
announcement of there was an announcement of a partnership with Succinct for this first ZK validity rollup with Succinct's SP1, but I don't think that's been driving a lot of it. I mean, it's only up a little bit over the week anyway. But I did speak to some people from the Mantle team about 2 weeks ago. It's very interesting. I think it's as an Ethereum-based layer 2, I think it's got some potential, because obviously, if you recall the history of Mantle, it used to be BitDAO, which is the treasury of Bybit, which is absolutely gargantuan. And they've also got these rewards programs with METH, which, that they colloquially refer to it as meth. So I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing when you refer to your yield-bearing stablecoin as meth. Yeah, that's probably driving the incentives to invest in it and stake it and all that.
Yeah. Okay, so that was last week's top performers. Let's have a quick look at some tweets of the week from last week. Let's start off with this one from Corey Bates. I found this one fascinating. This is Bitcoin's current token distribution. Now, what one did you notice, Nick?
For me personally, it was the 57% individuals. Obviously, it shows that despite the fact there is this mass accumulation of crypto by the ETFs, companies, whales, there's still a large portion is held by people or individuals, people. So it's like, but not likely to have any sort of the coin attacks in terms of like general holders and all this kind of stuff, centralization concerns. So that's what stood out to me.
Yeah. The one that stood out to me, which I think was the one he was sort of indicating, was that 17.6% lost. I won't go into it here, but we have a video on quantum computing coming out and its possible threat to Bitcoin. And you should watch that, because there are big potential implications for that lost Bitcoin, and also that 5.2% of the supply that is sitting in Satoshi's wallet or wallets. So that could be really fascinating. I think we haven't heard the end of the lost Bitcoin. I think lost Bitcoin could be something that we start hearing a lot about in the next few years. Okay, let's move on. Next tweet is from Zach XBT. Now this is in relation to this one from Unusual Whales. Nick, would you like to explain what?
Oh God, do I have to? How far back do I have to go? Do we need to be explaining what Hook to a Girl is? Who is she? I'm assuming that anyone who's watching the stream will know who the hell Hook to a Girl is. But I find there's only one thing there's only one type of person who's more stupid than the person who invests and loses 150K on a token launched by a girl famous for spitting on wieners. And that is the person who decides to go and sue for losing 150K on said girl. So I guess it's a situation where I would be too goddamn embarrassed to go and if I lost my crypto on this did the scam. Well, not a scam. Yeah. I mean, whatever. This failed launch that saw the token go to near zero. And Zach XBT puts it right. It's like there are dangers to society for having negative IQ, which is unfortunate because you don't want people lose money. It's never nice. But honestly, guys, what did you expect? Honestly.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, going and suing someone because basically you're an idiot. It's wild. But
I would just pay the lawyer. I would pay the lawyer. Don't put my name on that lawsuit. Whatever you do, I don't care. I would go and burn my wallets. I would.
Take the L and don't be an idiot next time. Okay, let's move on. I always enjoy these cartoons from Bold Leonidas. So this one is, I mean, this will be interesting to see how the Pudgy's collection fares after this. But I thought this was kind of on point as well. People love a free token, but will they stay in love with the project once the airdrop is done? Okay, now the next one. Last week we were talking a lot about AI agents tweeting. We cited this one that was a sort of roasting people on Twitter, and we also cited AIXBT, which gives really good crypto alpha, I think, really good information. But it also seems to be learning and is now roasting people as well. I really enjoyed this reply to a complainor that we saw the other day. He's becoming self-aware. This is great.
Yeah, exactly, because that's true. Because it's not this AI was developed in order to give alpha, right? Whereas the other one we talked about last week was Dolos, the Dolos one, or the Bully one, right?
Yeah.
Which basically roasts, is developed to roast people online. This one is of its own volition decides to roast people. So the AI is learning and evolving to the extent that even a AI agent that's supposed to give you crypto alpha is deciding that actually this guy's stupid. I'm gonna roast him.
Yeah, wild. And if you thought that was wild, our last tweet of the week, we have to mention this. This guy, Richard Hart, or Richard Schuler, as I think he's named on Interpol's Most Wanted. Yep, that happened. But there still seem to be people out there getting behind him.
Hardcore community, man. I got to say though, I'm surprised to learn that he was placed on the Interpol red list before the Fashion Police red list. Because if you've ever seen the way Richard Hart dresses, that's a crime against humanity when it comes to the kind of garb he wears. For marketing, I suppose, for the shop perspective, there's many pictures of him online.
If dressing badly was a crime, he'd already be in jail for life.
But I think a community that has a community as strong and dedicated as the hexagons. I mean, that's something. Hey? I mean, the fact that you will literally be on the red list and you're still supporting the project. I mean, what can you say about that?
Those guys are quite something. Okay, any coins to watch for next week, Nick?
Yeah, so just two. I think obviously on Christmas Day, we have another very big celebration, and that is because Bonk is having a scheduled token burn, surprisingly. So this is important. Obviously, token burns lead to reduction in supply. That's relatively bullish. And also, there was news that the CFTC, the dog coins rallied, and Bonk was a big rallied quite a lot over the weekend, because there was news that the CFTC had termed dog coins like Flocky, etc., as utility tokens. And obviously the implications of that are potentially maybe that could mean they could easily get an ETF. And there is speculation that the likes of Doge, etc., could get an ETF before many of these other altcoins. And I remember back when I was in London at an oddly named Bonk party, but yes, it was a Bonk cryptocurrency party. And they were talking about, I met one of the founders. They said, yeah, potentially we could get an ETF because there is a company behind Bonk, a team, as opposed to many of these other projects, meme coins, etc. So keep your eyes on Bonk. And then on the 30th of December, we have the final deadline for EU exchanges to delist Tether. And a lot have already been doing that in the past few weeks. So that's, I don't know if there's any that still allow for trading on it, but that is the deadline. Okay.
All right. Yeah, Mica starting to make its presence felt. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about that in 2025 as well. And just finally, one date for the diary this week. That is December the 26th, Boxing Day. Then we get the initial jobless claims. So the previous number 220K, and the expected number is 225K this time around.
Yeah. So just watch that expected number and how it comes in compared to that. But I honestly don't think too many people are going to be paying attention to it.
No. So that is Boxing Day, which is Thursday. And actually, I should mention on Thursday as well, there's not no NFA live stream because obviously it's Boxing Day. Rob, Ben, and myself will all be sort of nursing
slackers.
Absolute slackers, I know. But we will be back very soon in the new year. Anyhow, that is about it for today's stream, folks. Let me just bring up some of your wonderful comments. We had lots of people wishing us all happy holidays, so thank you for that. Can someone please explain what is following the stream whilst doing some Ring Fit? What is Ring Fit? Can anyone shed some light on this?
I think it's a Super Mario game. Ring Fit Adventure, Nintendo Online. It's a Nintendo game, I assume. Okay. That's what he's referring to, unless he's referring to some one of those. He's determined some sort of those ring, those ring exercises.
Oh yeah. Do you know, as I asked that question, I thought, God, I hope it's not something really rude. So that's just as well, really. Thank goodness. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello to you, Salvatore. And lots of other lovely comments as well. I'm just seeing if we've got any particular questions. First time watching, what's this one about? First time watching guys live. I always wonder who is in the picture. Picture is in this, held by, what picture are you talking about? Oh,
that is.
That's not a squirrel. That's a mongoose. Is that a mongoose or a meerkat?
That's a mongoose. Meerkat. Sorry, it's a meerkat. Timon. That's Timon. My Timon.
He's holding a picture. I don't know if you can see this. He's holding a picture of a young Nick. Young, fresh face, wearing a suit. Can you believe that?
Wearing
Nick
a suit.
wearing a suit.
Golden Gecko. My first day at Goldman Sachs, back in the day, I kept that card as a memento to tell myself I will never go back. But yeah, that's when I was fresh-faced, the beginning of the TradFi journey. I'm going to become, investment banker. It's just going to be the dream I wanted. 2 or 3 years later, I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. And here I am in crypto, bro. This is a nondescript room doing a live stream with a guy wearing a Santa hat.
There you are. There you are. You've gone to the light. You've gone to the light. All your old friends at Goldman Sachs just be thinking, wow, he's made it. He got out. Yeah. Are you part of the Avengers, Nick? I think you could be.
Oh no, I could be. We could do a special. We could do a special episode for that. Crypto Bros goes Avengers or something in Dubai.
Absolutely, I'd watch that. It wouldn't be a Coin Bureau live news stream without at least one amusing comment on Nick's appearance. But yes, thank you for all your lovely comments. Here's a nice one. I'm going to put this up to finish as well. Happy holidays and thank you for your dedication. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Thank you for watching us this year. I need to draw your what do I need to draw your attention to? Oh, to this. Oh, MicroStrategy. Yes, there we are. Michael Saylor has bought Bitcoin again.
I wish but to be fair, it's kind of like programmatic now.
I wish he'd mentioned in the tweet that he was watching the coin. Michael, next time, can you please mention has acquired X number of BTC for whatever whilst watching Coin Bureau's live news stream? That would be much appreciated. But yeah, there he goes, Michael, reliable as ever. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you have, if Christmas is your thing, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. If not, we will see you in a few days regardless. Nick, I will see you. You'll be back at Coin Bureau HQ very soon, right?
Very soon. Yeah. Looking forward to it, guys. Missed you guys.
Absolutely. Likewise. Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great Christmas. We will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
It's nearly zone time. So excited. I always had a suspicion Goldilocks has a bit of boredom. Fantastic listening. Thanks, guys. You guys make my Mondays. Cheers, guys. Thanks, gents. Thanks, team. Top shelf, guys. Cheers, guys. Thanks, gents. Thanks, team. Top shelf, guys. Got to love Coin Bureau. Always cheers me up when I watch this channel. Oh no. Cheers, guys. Thanks, gents. Thanks, team. Top shelf, guys. Cheers, guys. Thanks, gents. Thanks, team. Top shelf, guys.